All right, I might be a geek, but I can't stop going down the rabbit hole of should we fuel or not fuel, and what are some options for fueling when we are doing various workout intensities. Example, long bike ride as I typically do on a weekend versus an hour bike ride during the week. Men versus women. What if I'm going for a long run? Should I do anything beforehand? I just roll out of bed, make some coffee, put some heavy cream in there. Americano, actually, same thing as coffee, I think. But add a splash of heavy cream. Should I add some butter, or am I going to perform better if I add some carbohydrates as per she shares online? Now, we want to look at, why am I not recording on my blue audio here? Hold on. We want to look at fueling strategies, and what works well for me might not work the best for you. So let me push pause and share my screen. One more thing that I think about, to ask yourself, should I fuel or not fuel before, during a workout? How's your performance? Is it where you want it to be? Are you getting faster? Are you getting stronger? Are you getting more powerful? How's your energy throughout the workout? Does it kind of suck at the end? My journey has not been great the last 10 years since my adrenal exhaustion, metabolic chaos hit me 2013. And I share this to be real that you may be struggling with fatigue, poor recovery, lack ability to get fat off your body and gain more muscle. Don't blame the aging process, but let's make some adjustments as we age, embrace the changes. Now, I was living life as a race, burning the candle at both ends, doing too much of everything. And that's kind of what I'm helping you with today, part of my purpose. For me, running, it's a lot of stress in my body. And we'll do some upcoming podcasts with guests to talk about that, and hopefully get Dr. Casey Means on the show later this fall when she's recovered from her book tour about mitochondrial health and good energy. Because we're lacking energy, we want to look at that cell danger response theory and look at mitochondria dysfunction. Why am I not feeling good? Why am I not thriving in my workouts? And what's going on? That's what I do as a health investigator. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, FDN, and also forever personal trainer and triathlon and run coach. So that with precision medicine with genetics, that I just finished a 6-month course with Wild Health precision medicine course. I'm putting that all together to really figure out how you should best fuel, train, and perform in life today. And ideally, we're not just focused on this year, we're focused on our future self. So I was going into rabbit holes nonstop. If you're watching the video that I found Stacy Sims podcast interesting on the Huberman podcast. I did a little video on this the other day. I have followed Stacy Sims for, I don't know, 5 or more years. And I find it interesting because it's very contradictory to what we learn as a fat adapted athlete, burning fat, eat fat to burn fat. We want to keep our carbs down. Well, she has shown that women as we age may benefit for performance gains having a little calories before a workout. And we'll go into that rabbit hole of what I'm always curious about. Well, why? I'm like a little annoying child. Well, how does that work? All right. Well, how does that work? Dig deeper and deeper to that rabbit hole. So thanks to we've got some options here to dig deep on AI. There's a new website I found called Huberman Labs AI portal. So you can look on Huberman and ask questions to the Huberman Lab on, say, women versus men, endurance training, fuel, something like that. And then you push enter. And then all the podcasts that Huberman has done, you'll see comes up. Super cool, huh? Right? So this is why I could spend days doing this. So I asked me questions, and then there's related questions, takes you down more rabbit holes. Which nutrients are most important? When should I eat before workout? How does my nutrient timing affect my mental performance? And we talk about recovery, post-workout fuel. Example here, women versus men endurance training. How should we fuel? Talking about Huberman Lab episodes, but elite athletes combine carbohydrates and ketone intake to enhance performance during long bouts of exercise. Carbohydrates replenish glycogen stores, while ketones provide quick energy source. This approach recognizes the body's natural ability to utilize multiple fuel sources as fatty acids, carbs, and ketones, depending on needs and intensity. Now, Huberman just had Dr. Stacy Sims obviously on the show, and she would not talk about this ketone, I'm sure is not her thing. Her research is saying, hey, we need some carbs. Now, whenever you do AI, I always have to ask specific things, grain-free, gluten-free, because the whole thing of strategic carb timing in my world is adding some carbs to improve performance in and around the workouts when we're going to use it for that muscle glycogen storage for energy. Now, the examples of what type of carbs, I like to say nature's carbs, not grains, not flour products, gluten. So when you say example on here comes up as consuming pasta, rice, other carb-rich foods before events to load muscles and livers with glycogen, let's not use pasta. Let's not use bread and flour. I'd rather look at safe starches, rice cooked and cooled, and you can look up what are safe starches. Paul Jomini, I think was his name, years ago talked about safe starches. You can find out what those are and how they can keep your blood sugar down, but they're a good option for, Paul Jomini. And safe start. Starchy food after normal cooking lacks toxins, protein toxins, that to cook it and then cool it, prioritizing glucose over fructose, blah, blah, blah. So you can look up what those are on glucose on, this is the paleoleap.com. But the safe starches, I stay away from oats. I think most people, when I do metabolic testing, and their functional lab testing and looking at their reaction to wheat, it is also looking at molecular mimicry. And if you have low thyroid or autoimmune disease, you want to avoid all cross-reactive to wheat. So then we look at my other favorite, Dr. Mary Myers, on looking at your molecular mimicry in the cross-reactivity to Dr. Myers. So here it is. What foods cross with Dr. Amy Myers' article on gluten? So all common for people, 6 foods that your body thinks are gluten. Rid of these pop-ups: dairy, corn, millet, oats, rice, and yeast. Watch out if you're eating these foods and they're not properly prepared, soaked, rinsed, sprouted, so it can cool down and as rice. But if your heart rate variability goes down, if your resting heart rate goes up, those are good clues of foods that are causing a stress response in your body. Okay, so that's another tangent, but this is kind of what you can dig down rabbit holes on Huberman Lab as well as ChatGPT. So this led me down making many blogs on my own website, debbiepotts.net, on breaking up the podcasts Huberman and Stacy Sims did on my show that I'll try to record, but just how each topic about how to train, how to work on nutrition, on supplements. So looking at all of that really is helpful to break it up into nutrition. What are the rabbit holes that you find interesting? Let me know. But I find, looking at fueling is very confusing. This is a picture of me before I moved. Obviously, this is Seattle, not where I live now in North San Diego. We don't have leaves. Well, actually, I have eucalyptus leaves everywhere. Now, the key points I'll start with, and then I'll go into my really big blog I'm working on. Key points from Dr. Stacy Sims' interview with Huberman. Stacy Sims for Women talks about pre-nutrition. So I took this part out of minute 22, 15 seconds into the podcast, and then I put it in Chat GPT, summarize this transcription from the podcast into bullet notes. And then I can go back and go, okay, I want to know more about this subject. Okay, so here's where we left off 22 minute to minute 25 in the podcast. It comes up as because Stacy Sims was talking about ocean swim. So say that's your endurance workout. To fuel before, what should you have? Well, this is what Stacy has, a double espresso. She said she makes the night before, sweetened with almond milk. So there's your sugar is the vanilla flavoring sweetener. A scoop of protein powder to get her carbs and protein. Now we'll get to the suggestion of how much carbs and protein do you need before certain types of workout. Now, if you're just going to the gym, you may just be good with rolling out of bed. These are morning workouts as I go to the gym at 5:15 in the morning, that I just, having coffee and protein powder for caffeine and the amino acids. And then, looking at your genetics, if you're slower, fast metabolizer, if caffeine's something you can benefit from for your workout. Now, looking at carbs and protein before workout, why does that help? That's why I go down the rabbit holes. Well, how? What's a mechanism of action? So if you like to geek out, look at these blogs I put together. I have multiple. I spent the weekend doing this. Now, the research finding Stacy Sims is speaking about in this interview is from Abby Smith Ryan. She said, I think at Stanford, for strength training, highlighting this section I'm talking about, 15 grams of protein pre-workout aids fuel availability and increases post-exercise oxygen consumption. You may know of EPOC, enhancing your recovery and your resting metabolism. So I want to know again, well, how exactly does it work? I like to understand these things. Now, if you're doing cardio, the AI says, I have to go back and hear Stacy Sims say this, but cardio up to an hour. I would say over an hour is what my intuition says. If you're doing more aerobic exercise over an hour, you might benefit a female athlete, a male not, having additional 30 grams of carbohydrates, easy to digest as in your coffee or a little drink or half a bar. And I'm going to go through some examples I found. So 15 grams of protein if you're just doing a gym workout. Maybe I'll do some essential amino acids and we can talk about what that looks like because I don't want to eat in the morning. Does that count? So the 15 grams of protein would equal about 5 to 10 grams of essential amino acids as I do from, say, Body Health Perfect Aminos. Okay, so I don't do stevia, but they do have Body Health, the new one we'll look at that has a different type of stevia that doesn't supposed to be better for absorbing as I get headaches, I always say from them, but they're a different source. So I'm learning there's different types of stevia. Now, meal timing, pre-workout meal. Now, if you do your lumen score, it's 30 minutes beforehand. I'm going to look at, okay, what am I doing? What's my workout? What's my intensity? Do I need to be ready to burn fat or carbohydrates for this workout? When I do the lumen, remember 1, 2 is a fat burning. If I'm 3, it's 50-50, 4, 5, more carbs. 5 is obviously the highest carbs fully being burned. Now, that could help me fuel with my coffee drink. Do I add some glucose into my coffee drink for pre-workout when I'm going to go do speed workout or half a bar? But I know, honestly, I never really feel like eating that early in the morning, but I can put in my coffee. What I like to know, does butter count? That's not a carb, it's a fat, but does that put my body into, I'm safe, I have nutrition on board, don't raise my cortisol higher than it should be. So that's where my mind goes. I like having a little bit of fat in my coffee, but I don't like sweetness Okay, so what are my options if I don't want sugar? I don't like the taste, but I want to go faster running. As I said in the beginning of the podcast today, what is your goal from the workout? If I'm struggling running as I did Sunday, I didn't eat anything. I put some butter in my coffee, but my intended my intended run for 90 minutes was a half an hour walk. And then I finally got going and I walked. And granted, I did a hard bike ride the day before, but I was killing it on the bike. I felt great. What did I do before my bike ride that made me feel different? Maybe my legs were more rested because Friday I took it easy. Sunday on my run, I was tired from Saturday. Then you have to reverse engineering. What am I eating beforehand? How am I feeling the day before? And how am I feeling after my long bike ride and recovering so I'm fueling for my next day's workout? So getting that protein carb 30 minutes after my bike ride is an important thing to look at as well as, all right, I ate something before I rode because I knew I was going 5 hours on a bike ride. So I did eat something and we weren't leaving till 8 a.m. So I had some cottage cheese and some Trader Joe's has a grain-free granola. I'll sprinkle on top with some organic raspberries, blueberries, strawberries because they're in season. Now, that was a good combination, protein and carbs. So did that help me? I also took a nitric oxide tablet that you suck on to improve nitric oxide flow. So good to kind of look at you as an individual, and that's what I do with my clients. Let's look at what you're doing, what's not working, what could we do different in my analysis. All right, so strength training, the research shows a 15 grams of protein and carbs. Now, meal timing, we're not looking at a full meal. She's not saying eat a big meal. Stacy Sims is talking about just enough to raise your blood sugar. What's enough? So if I just have 10 grams of carbohydrates, is that enough? Do I really have to have 30 grams, which might feel like a lot for me? That's more of a lower carb person. And real food consumed within 45 minutes post-exercise. Now, why pre-workout nutrition? It says, and we dug into this into another blog I wrote on kisspeptin, especially this is all for women, focused on women. Pre-workout nutrition helps protect kisspeptin hormones, supports the neural aspects of training intensity, cortisol management. And this is a big part of it. And this is why I do Dutch hormone tests with my clients, men and women. I want to see saliva or dry urine test over a 24-hour period of time. Look at your flow through the day of your cortisol rhythm. Now, we really, especially as we're aging, want to avoid breaking down the muscle, and that means catabolic. Anabolic is building, catabolic's breaking down. The balance of cortisol and DHEA makes a difference if we're building versus breaking down. You want that balance of everything. So delaying food intake after exercise can, for women, they say in their research, lead to a catabolic state, causing the brain to perceive low energy and resulting in lean body mass. So we want to make sure that we are eating, and I don't want to have a meal right afterwards because I just got off the bike. The last thing I want to do is be digesting food. My body's sympathetic, right? So we want to rest and digest our food. We need to be in parasympathetic nervous system. Having a quick, easy to digest protein carb meal is easy for me to do on a summer weekend by having a protein drink, grass-fed whey protein. And I just ordered Keon has it unsweetened. Again, I don't like all this sweet stuff. So if you're like me, just get the unsweetened grass-fed whey protein from Keon. Use my code to get 20% off. Just ask me for that. Then I added, get bananas and peel them and slice them and put them in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. So then I added a frozen quarter banana or half a banana if I'm making 2 shakes. And then I added some almond butter, and I'm trying not to do almonds very often. So you could do a different nut as a simpler seed butter instead of the nuts and have that, or macadamia nut. Now add a little heavy cream or add a little splash of some coconut milk, and you can add some sea salt in there and get some electrolytes, ice, and water. And that's what I do for my shake. Okay, so that's avoiding that catabolic state. Now, simple fix for lean mass, talking about the 15 grams is not the amount is recommended. So it says here, post-workout 15 grams, but you'll see Later on, Stacy Sims talks about research for women. We want 40 to 50 grams if you're post menopause. So if you're over 40, you want to start adding in more of the protein, heavier amounts post workout. All right, so cardiovascular, 30 grams of carbs is recommended. I was trying to find the studies on that. Who is that done on? Because I am always, questioning who's the study done, how many people, how many studies said 30 grams, because I don't think there's one size fits all, right? We want to individualize these recommendations and not say, okay, every female needs 30 grams exactly. What if, as I said before, we just can benefit from 10 grams? So this is where I would experiment with clients. Well, let's try this in your next long run. Halfway through, maybe you need something. And then before, back up, what you're doing before you work out, just having something quick, easy to digest. And we'll go over some of those ideas. Okay, so we're going over an hour. I don't know why it keeps showing lasting up to an hour. It's actually, I think, opposite. But they demonstrate that carbohydrate intake before and during prolonged endurance exercise can maintain blood glucose levels and performance. Carbohydrates crucial for maintaining glycogen stores and blood glucose level during prolonged cardio sessions because it helps fuel the muscles. Now, remember, we're talking about I'm training, ideally burning primarily fat. So we're more about glycogen sparing, but we want to make sure we have enough glucose on board. Doesn't mean carb loading, it just adding a little bit of that, 10 to 30 grams, experimenting again. So meal timing, pre-workout meal, just a little snack just to raise the blood sugar. So I'm looking at, okay, why? What studies tell this mechanism of action? This says a meal, just a little snack to raise the blood sugar level signals the hypothalamus, which can optimize exercise performance and recovery. If you've watched my other videos and anything on chronic stress, you'll know what the HPA axis is, as well as HPO, HPG, and the HPT. It's the hypothalamus is sending message to the pituitary gland, which is releasing signaling hormones to the gonads, so the ovaries for women, and then looking at your thyroid also is communicated by the HP, and then HPA is to the adrenal gland. So we want to know the body is safe. There's some fuel on board. It's okay. And then we're going to go into burning fat as our main fuel source and improve fat oxidation. So I'm still trying to find the research a little bit deeper because it is 2024 and the study says 2001. So it must be some other ones. I'm not just looking at one study said something. We want to look at that meta-analysis. Looking at pre-exercise meals to enhance exercise performance and recovery, particularly when the meal has some carbs and protein. So if it's just one study, do we have more studies to back it? A small pre-workout meal with carbs and protein boosts glucose levels and provides essential nutrients for upcoming workout to help sustain performance and reduce fatigue. Now, the other studies looking at post-workout, having real food, 45 minutes, crucial for recovery. That's consuming, that 30, 60 minutes. They see that more for women to help maximize recovery and repair, to replenish glycogen stores, the muscle tissue, and getting some real food nutrient density. Okay, so some studies there, 2001, 2013, 2012. Pre-sleep protein supplementation. That'd be an interesting one to go into. Improves post-exercise overnight recovery. I've been doing that with the Body Health Essential Aminos, and my sleep has been really good lately since I remember to take 10 tablets of the essential aminos from Body Health, Perfect Aminos. And my HRV, if you've been following me on my Instagram, has been up to 140. So it's pretty crazy on my Oura Ring. Now, use of carbs during exercise and its effects on performance recovery. Another study, the effects of pre-exercise nutrition on performance recovery. I think we got so sucked into the whole fasted exercise to burn more fat, but we wanted to look at performance gains. Anyways, there's lots in here. If you're a female, want to know more about the rabbit hole of thyroid function, fasting, I copied those into here. The cortisol circadian rhythm, This is what I look at when I'm doing your functional lab testing and correlating your functional labs with your signs and symptoms in my nutritional therapy assessment, and then look at your exercise biometrics, your goals, how you are training and pacing yourself and what type of workout. We're going to look at your energy flow through the day. And we look at your cortisol in the morning peak should be naturally high. So that's when, if you have higher than optimal, or for me, it was lower, if you're in that adrenal exhaustion phase, that's waking the body up. So that's why people say to wait on having your coffee. Just wait for a hard workout because your cortisol is already elevated naturally in the morning. So if you could just wait a little bit. Now, the role of cortisol, if you don't know, helps regulate metabolism, immune response, stress. This is where I talk to a lot of clients, because what happened to me is that I self-diagnosis of being insulin resistant from chronic stress. Excess cortisol release is going to increase your blood sugar to respond to immediate stress, immediate threat. So your body's going to create energy, support alertness, helps manage physical, psychological stress. Remember, acute stress is good. When you're doing that chronically, you're stimulating the cortisol release, which is stimulating constant increase in your glucose, especially if you know this, if you wear CGM for a month or two. What happens when you raise glucose all the time, that you're also raising insulin, and you do anything too much, get that insulin resistance. I gotta fix this one here. Now, deep dive there, I'm not gonna go into that, but pre-workout ideas, want to touch on that. Pre-workout snacks, if you're doing an endurance workout or you're doing a gym workout. So I put some notes in here. What does 15 grams of protein and what does 10, 30 grams of carbs look like? Here's some ChatGPT options. I like grass-fed whey protein unsweetened, as I said, but maybe you're doing a banana and nut butter. Maybe you dip it in some protein powder. Rice cakes, I don't know who eats rice. I did that when they first came out, but nut butter, fruit. If you listen to phytic acid, you got to watch the nut butter and not having too much of that because of anti-nutrients, especially if you already know you're low in zinc, calcium, magnesium that get pulled out from having too many nuts. So you want to pay attention to your mineral balance and the anti-nutrients from those phytates, oxalates, lectins. So those are some examples. Quinoa, I hate. Chickpeas, I hate. But what I like to look at is things from S fuels and whatnot. Okay, so that's on debbieplutz.net rabbit hole. Now, the next one you can go into is really in depth, and I'll come back to this one and do a part 2. But this one, I've heard more endurance athletes, maybe training for an Ironman, 50K, is looking at this long blog, looking at what Dan Plews says, because I took Endure IQ program in their 101, their different levels for coaching low carb athletes. And that's what I started going to this, people that are taking fructose, is say if you're doing fruit sugar as applesauce, is that going to be good on your gut because you're having too much fructose? Then there's maltodextrin, is that good? So there's another rabbit hole we can go into, looking on fructose with glucose and really learning from Dr. Dan Plews. They did a good research article on taking in some carbohydrates in your longer workouts. And if you look at their charts, it's about after 90 minutes to 2 hours of a long bike ride or run, then you can add in some exogenous carbohydrates. What does that look like? Around 90 grams an hour at high end. I know, looking at 60 grams an hour if you're racing. So this is, if you're racing, you're burning more carbs. It's going to be different if you're just zone 1, 2. That the amount that they find to oxidize and not reduce fat oxidation is the right amount. You can look at how much is too much. So you can look at Dr. Dan Plews' article that 90 to 100 grams an hour, is that too much? People talk about doing 120 an hour. That's 75% of it gets oxidized, leaving 30 grams to be unoxidized. So ingesting carbohydrates during exercise does provide extra fuel source, but you want to make sure it's going to help you and not cause problems. So you want to be able to oxidize those carbohydrates. Now, way down, I should break this up, looking at men versus women. So I'll break this up. But what's the difference between men and women? How we can benefit as females having 10, 20, 30 grams of carbs with protein before a workout, and men maybe don't need to. How is that different? So hormone influences, metabolic flexibility. Women have a greater capacity to oxidize fat compared to men, especially at lower intensities. So to me, that in my old mindset be going, all right, so we don't need any carbs pre-workout because I'm already good at burning fat. But what the point is, rabbit hole I'm going down is that in order to burn fat, that we're so good as females burning, oxidizing fat in long distance zone 2 workouts, doesn't mean you avoid carbohydrates. That having a small amount of glucose pre-workout can help maintain blood glucose levels for immediate source of energy, allowing us to preserve or conserve muscle glycogen stores and enhance fat oxidation. So one camp will say avoid all carbs before workout because you're going to blunt the fat oxidation. But maybe for men, but women, Stacey Sims is arguing, need some, that 20 to 30 grams. She says 30, but I'm wondering maybe just 10 grams is enough for me. And I can use my Pinoe test to test this out. That maybe that will help me improve my fat oxidation, which will improve my performance versus not doing anything but some heavy cream in my coffee, right? So you can go into this rabbit hole talking about low energy availability and performance without having enough carbohydrate intake to get that energy, fat utilization, having small amount, again, just tiny bit, can help prime the body, facilitating smoother transition to fat oxidation during endurance exercise. So we're not talking about people that are not exercise, just daily activity. This is only when you're going longer than, say, 90 minutes, maybe more than an hour, that the availability of glucose to maintain metabolic stability, allowing the body to efficiently utilize stored fat as fuel source. This is what we just have to do, is experiment. Next point came out, women may experience different metabolic performances response to carbs intake than men. Women may experience less of a performance decline in a fasted state, but can benefit from carb intake to maximize training adaptations and training. So I can do a fasted workout, but I feel that I'm sluggish. So I need to wrap my head around and give myself permission that I will burn more fat, improve performance to go longer and have steady energy in the long run if I do add some carbohydrates. Okay, so practical solutions. 20 to 30 grams before for women doing a longer than an hour workout, improve glucose energies and needs, maintain glucose levels, better utilization of fat stores during prolonged endurance activity. This intake sufficient to provide energy without impacting insulin levels, supporting this metabolic pathway associated with fat burning. So men and women can benefit from strategic carb intake. Women in particular may require pre-exercise glucose to optimize fat oxidation, maintain energy balance, and support overall performance endurance exercise. This approach can help with hormonal fluctuations and ensures adequate energy availability, crucial for health and athletic performance. So I went into that even more if you're still not sold on it. Why? Why? Immediate source of glucose, carbohydrates before exercise can shown to improve endurance. Now, you don't really need them, I think, the rest of the time. If I have them right before a workout and have some carbs in the post-workout meal with protein, that is where you put your carbohydrates. Doesn't mean high carb the rest of the day. But all these things you can look at, the benefits. Okay, so let's move to what that looks like. Here's some options. Now, you can ask me for my discount code to get 20% off, trying to do everything Coach Debbie Potts, but Paleo Valley has lots of good options. They do have this bar that's called Superfood Bar that you may be interested in trying, grass-fed bone broth protein. And it has all this different superfoods in it. If you're carnivore, this is not a carnivore bar. So you can look at that option. Now, I was trying to find the nutrients. I'm always looking at what are the ingredients, how many carbs, protein, and it's really hard to find that on different pages. So you can check that out. That's one option, Paleo Valley. Now, Vespa is something we've talked to Peter Dafty many times and doing a little bit of Vespa packet. Now, it costs a little more money, but this is something helpful to have pre-workout, stabilize your blood sugar, not bonking, steady energy. So you can have one of those and learn about what that is in many of our videos in the past. Okay. Now there's S Fuels. They have S Fuels bar that has milk, protein isolates, resistant starches, and nut butter to create slow digesting, high satiety bar that provides workout fuel pre, during, and even post. So you can check that out, see if you do well with those ingredients. So I always look at the ingredients: milk, protein, almond butter. We've got cocoa butter, cacao nibs, so some hickory root fiber. What I don't like in all these things are a lot of sweeteners. So I wish everyone stopped being so needing sweetness, because almond butter should give it taste, cocoa butter, cocoa nibs. So I would love to see no stevia leaf and monk fruit added when we already have all this stuff in there. This isn't needed. So what you can do is make your own. So I found other options on, whoops, this is on S Fuels, how to fuel the night before, race morning, and then during the race, you might have in your bar, your bento box, we used to call it, and then on your bottles what to have, but race morning, having S Fuels primed, and then have everything set up in your bottles. And breakfast, maybe you're having a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, but having some of their granola is an option. But looking at fuel sources on S Fuels, Laird Superfoods, they have this new protein creamer out. So it has coconut milk, pea protein, all these ingredients over here on the right. Now, if you look at their numbers, it's 14 grams, 1/3 cup. So if you do one scoop, there I'm getting 14 grams of carbs and 12 grams of protein and 11 grams of fat. I think that to me is a great option, and I get the adaptogens. So I'm getting lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and they have a little sweetener, the monk fruit extract in there, and then you have coconut sugar. So there's 2 sweeteners in there. Again, I would love to say, hey, take out this monk fruit. We already have coconut sugar. I think that's because everyone's designing foods on people's preferences. So stop wanting sweetness would be great. Okay, so that's Laird's protein creamer you can put in your coffee. That's another option. And then what else did I find? Body Health. So they have a mix. So you can use my full script account and order things with a discount, or Body Health, my code, Coach Chubby Potts. They have this shake mix, if you haven't seen it, a perfect amino power meal. I thought this was interesting. Great meal replacement and post-workouts. You're getting your essential amino acids, 0 added sugar, 150 calories. If you want to drink this before a long workout, and I can't see, maybe I can it zoom in with my fingers here, but what does it say? Your perfect aminos are in there. So 8 essential aminos. You've got a slow burning carbohydrate fuel. You've got little MCT oil for fat and brain fuel. And then 22 essential vitamins, minerals, antioxidant superfoods, keto friendly. The sweetener in there is monk fruit. And that is a good option. Maybe have part of that before and then afterwards. I can't read how many carbs it has, but look that up. The other thing Perfect Amino has is electrolytes, and they have a bar and great resources on their website. So they do have a Perfect Amino bar. So we look at those ingredients. Now then you can look here. There's a lot of stuff in here. Coconut oil, that's good. But I look for the sweeteners at the end. Cocoa extract, monk fruit extract. Well, that's a good option. So you can test it out. Now look at the profile. There's 19 grams. So 1 bar. I can't digest a whole bar. That's a lot for me. So maybe I just do half a bar. So I'm getting some carbs, some protein, and a lot of fat. Maybe half a bar might be good pre-workout. And then post-workout. Now we can see the usage guide for perfect aminos is a great resource. And you can listen to my 3 podcasts I've done on perfect aminos the last 6 months. And you can see the servings you want are here. Let's zoom in. If you're trying to 30 minutes before, get that protein in and or after. And for sure at nighttime before bed, this is how many 2 servings first thing in the morning, 1 before bed, depending on your weight. So say you're little female, take 2 servings first thing in the morning before bed. And then if you can vary those working out, but it's more what Chase said on my last podcast was before bed is a really important part because we want to work on our healing, rebuild. Now, workout daily, different guidelines if you're fasting. Anyways, that's another resource. But what I like to share with people is this chart right here. So we want to realize getting your protein in. Perfect aminos is a great simple way. Maybe I just take this in the morning, pre-workout, post-workout. Next thing up that you can absorb that you're going to help build muscle, anabolic build, catabolic breakdown, what you're going to use. So protein utilization chart's really helpful to look at, okay, if I'm doing a whey protein or branched chain amino acids, 1%. So make sure you're not doing BCAAs anymore. Whole eggs, but a lot of people I do food tests, they're doing too many eggs because they're now allergic to it. Meat, poultry, next on the list, 32. The best option is getting the perfect aminos. So check out the Body Health Podcast on the YouTube channel. So you see how much they convert. 30 grams of whey, protein, collagen, P, and soy convert to 1 serving of perfect aminos. Meat, fish, poultry, 15 grams converts to 1 serving of perfect aminos. Whole eggs, 10 grams is equal. And then BCAAs, just get rid of them. They're converted to sugar, will not help you convert sugar to boost energy, have a low sugar mood swings to get on the blood sugar roller coaster. Interesting, right? All those years, we thought we knew what we're doing. All right, so that's on perfect aminos. Now, other things, I looked up safe starches, and then I showed you this, Dr. Mary Meyer. All right, so head to Debbie Potsnetz if you want to go into all those blogs I've been working on with the Huberman, Stacey Sims, breaking the 2-hour, 30-minute podcast they did together, going to her other articles on Triathlon Magazine, and also looking at just researching men versus women. So use your intuition. If you're hungry, eat. Prioritizing protein, and then not being scared, as kind of gotten over the years, of eating any carbohydrates. That I'm going to break my fast if I work out, having some calories, but I want to get faster. I want to run stronger and faster. And part of that, my flexibility, it's part of it. It's not going to help with the food so much as having the right carbohydrates in and around that workout. I don't benefit later on. I'm using the carbs for fuel. To access my fat oxidation, I need a little bit of glucose on board. If my workouts are crappy, I should be a little more intuitive and go, my bike workout was great. I had some carbs and protein fat pre-workout. My run workouts are crap. Maybe experiment. N equals 1. Try it out. My genetics say I'm carb intolerant. I'm more prone to type 2 diabetes. But I know carbs are not all evil. It's eating the crap, processed foods and vegetable oils. But having some berries or having some of these options I went over today, have some good sources of nature's carbohydrates to add into your pre-workout 30 minutes before, or dump into your coffee, and then post-workout have a little shake. Men can wait. And then we have that good quality meal, focusing on that 40, 50 grams of protein which you can do. It's not impossible. I have to take digest enzymes with it to break my protein down, but having your carbs around the workout and then really prioritizing that protein the rest of the day, right? Getting that 1 gram or more for athletes per pound of ideal body weight. So say you're trying to weigh 150 pounds, that's 150 grams of protein per day. But remember, the leucine threshold is not all protein is not equal. We need the right amount of protein with the right essential amino acids and the right leucine in that 30, 40, 50 grams. So Stacy Sims even says that 40, 50 grams of protein. So that's 3 times a day plus supplementing where you can't get enough of with perfect aminos. Okay. So let me know if you have questions, if you want to do consult analysis or do my health investigation testing and not guessing program. DebbiePotts.net. Thanks for listening.